Here we go again, how to win with Scourge of Ghyran Ironjawz. This video is made at the very end of July 2025 after the FAQ update. Let's have a look, but first, of course, thanks to all my patrons, Wybarian for the channel art, and Baron of Dice. Use code MDG to get 5% off your order. So here's a quick army overview. Ironjawz have a 3-up save army-wide. I can't think, well, except for maybe some of the, wizards and priests. And they have a potential 6-up ward from the Brewfist battle formation. So we have very tanky boys. There's a 4-inch move for infantry, which means slow boys, but they are faster than you think, given that we have a 3-inch Mighty Destroyers move. And we also have like cavalry, relatively slow cavalry at 9-inch move, and big pigs are a 10-inch move, so they're not the fastest things out there. We are generally a pretty slow army, but pigs can go fast. They're easy to get started with. The rules don't have, like, there's not a ton of rules. They're pretty straightforward. The war scrolls are straightforward. The abilities are straightforward. What everything is supposed to do is very straightforward. But the army does offer a ton of complexity once you sort of get into it. The when and how to use Mighty Destroyers. They are really a control army, but they control space on the table. Decent prayers and spells with decent wizards and priests. Nothing really to write home about, but like solid. Weak to mortal wounds, given that they, have 3-up saves. And they're also very weak to -1 to hit effects because almost everything hits on 4s. So watch out for mortal wounds and -1s to hit. Armies that control space very well, and they can dictate the pace of the game. They can generate a large number of attacks from different sources. This is referring to the Ironjawz Wa and other abilities that they have in the game. They can just throw lots of dice. Battle traits. So the assumption here is that you already kind of know what different, you already know about the army. You already know some of what the army actually does. If you don't, I suggest using Age of Index. You just go type in factions. And so, for example, it'll show you battle traits. Yep. Mighty Destroyer. So they have 2 battle traits, not very light in battle traits. So Mighty Destroyers in any hero phase. So this is yours or your opponent's, or both, rather. It's in every hero phase. Pick a friendly Ironjawz unit that was not set up this turn to be the target. The target can move 3 inches. It can move into combat. That's the key, is that it can move into combat. If it was in combat at the start of the move, it must end that move in combat, but it doesn't have to end the move in combat with the same unit. So it can move out of combat with 1 unit and into combat with another. Ironjawz Wa, once per battle per hero. Every hero gets to do this once. You call it in your charge phase. You pick the hero, whatever, you pick a hero to be the target for the rest of the turn. The following effects apply to friendly Ironjawz units while they're wholly within 18 inches of the target. You add 1 to charge rolls for those units, so everything that's wholly within 18, and you add 1 to the attack characteristic of those units' melee weapons. Now, this is particularly good. The charge roll is good for everybody, right? Like, it sort of applies to all units evenly. However, the +1 to the attack characteristic does not. The thing is that it still doesn't affect companion weapons. So if you're looking at your pigs, both little and big, some of their better attacks, especially on the big pigs, aren't getting any benefit from this. However, a reinforced brick of 20 Ard Boys is suddenly throwing 20 extra dice. 10 brutes are throwing 10 extra dice. So it works much, much better with infantry than it does with cavalry and monsters, and it works best with Ard Boys, right? Just because you have more models. More models equals more attacks that you get to throw, or more profiles, right? So like a mega boss, yeah, but even then, like more profiles often means some of those profiles are companions. So the Ironjawz Wa is generally best with Ard Boys, and then brutes probably next after that, and then like Rekkas and stuff like that as well. Yeah. Faction Train, Boss Rock Tower. So it is obviously, a piece of faction terrain. You don't have to deploy it in your deployment zone. You just have to deploy it in friendly territory. On a 4-up, you pick one of the following effects to an enemy unit that's within, not wholly within, 18 inches. -3 to its control score. Meh. -1 from casting rolls and or chanting rolls. This could be situationally good depending on what kind of army you're playing, depending on what kind of casters your opponent has. But yeah, like getting -1 to chant and -1 to cast is good. Against Khorne, for example, like they have priests that want to move up the board, so you can just take one of their chanting rolls away. Seems good. And the best one, in my opinion, is -1 to charge dice. This means if you take away one of your opponent's charge dice, it means that they fail a 3-inch charge 33% of the time, which is a lot of percentages to be failing a 3-inch charge. The boss rock tower works on a 3-up if you have a hero that's actually in the tower. So most of the time, I feel like it's worth it. But for Cruel Boys, for example, you always want to have like a dedicated hero that's going to be the shouty boss that's going to sit in the tower. But for Ironjawz, I think it's a little bit less important. So you probably have a infantry hero that'll jump into the tower at the beginning of the game, probably try to take a charge die away from something, maybe do that twice, but then as the game kind of progresses, you might move the hero out of the tower because it still has an 18-inch range. You're just getting -1 to the roll, so it kind of like it's not like a for sure every single time you want to have like a hero in the tower. I think most of the time you do, but I think all of the time you don't necessarily. So let's talk about Mighty Destroyers a little bit more. I guess these were kind of out of order, weren't they? So Mighty Destroyers is used for grinding into your opponent with infantry bricks or getting a jump start off the line. If I charge in with my Ard Boys and I connect with my opponent, then before my opponent really gets to do much else, like let's say it's my turn, right? So I charge into my opponent and then I don't touch one of their units to the left because I just don't have enough move. So we fight, I pile in, I'm a little bit closer to the target unit, I'm still not within combat range, but then at the start of my opponent's turn, I'm gonna Mighty Destroyers and move 3 more inches, and I'm gonna tag that other unit in combat before my opponent gets a chance to move. So that's kind of how it can feel from your opponent. It's like, it's like, oh, I'm gonna Mighty Destroyers to get 3 extra inches, and then I'm gonna move my Ard Boys 4, and now they've come 7 inches. And then I'm gonna charge. That's cool. And then I'm gonna pile in, and then I'm gonna Mighty Destroyers again. Like you get to, if it's your turn, you'll get to Mighty Destroyers twice before your opponent gets to move. So it can actually add up to a lot of movement. And again, it really feels like you're grinding into your opponent, and there's not much that they can do to stop it. You can also use it with like big pigs or other units that you want to move quickly, like let's say Ragers, just to give them that 3-inch jump start off the line. You can move out of combat with some units as long as you stay in combat with other units. It can be used to swap which units are in combat with which. We talked about this a little bit earlier. You can also use it defensively on your opponent's turn to move out of charge range. You can just back something 3 inches up. It's like, oh, your opponent's going to move 10 and then charge, and you're 20 inches away. Well, you can just move 3 inches back, and all of a sudden you're out of charge range. You can also use this to reposition some of your key, like casters and priests, like after the battlefield has got stuck in, everybody's stuck in, you can use this to sort of reposition some of your key pieces to make sure that they stay out of harm's way. But most of the time what you're going to be doing with it is grinding into your opponent with like Gore Gruntas and infantry. There's actually some pretty neat tricks that you can do with Ironjawz as a way of sort of with Gore Gruntas, with the little pigs, as a way of really being annoying and really being frustrating with them. We'll just have a quick look here in TTS. This tactic was shown to me by Aaron Newbaum. He's a very good Ironjawz player, so he's a part of my Discord, so you should join the Discord and hit him up because, like I said, he's a very good player. So essentially the way that this works is you're going to commit some Gore Gruntas into your opponent's line, and then your opponent is going to, activate and potentially kill some, but then you're going to remove Gore Gruntas from the table to deny your opponent the ability to activate with more units and then still be able to Mighty Destroyers back into them again. So, for example, let's say that we have 2 units of Gut Rippers. Our opponent is playing Cruel Boys like this, and then we are playing Ironjawz and we have 3 pigs like this. Okay, so we're gonna charge in our pigs, and they're going to connect with our opponent. And this is sort of a tar pit tactic, right? So if I charge my pigs in like this pig is within combat range of both of these units, but these pigs are not. This pig is within combat range here, and this pig is, let's say that these two pigs are not within combat range, and this pig is within combat range here. Okay, cool. So what happens if our opponent decides they're going to activate with this unit of Gut Rippers first? Cool, they're going to pile in, whatever. They're going to kill a pig. But this unit now is no longer in combat with this unit of pigs. But they are, we're going to pretend that they were 6 inches away. Now, on my turn, what I can do is I can Mighty Destroyers this pig 3 inches over, and I can now be in combat with this unit of Gut Rippers here, but they didn't get to activate on the previous combat. They didn't get to activate, but they're still stuck in combat, right? So they've just been kind of pinned there. They didn't get to move, they didn't get to pile in, they didn't get to do anything. And then if my opponent's like, okay, well, now I'm gonna activate this unit first, right? If I'm being really clever, then I can do little tricks like this. This is like pretty advanced, right? But now if they kill this pig, it's like this pig is not in combat with either. So this unit doesn't get to activate. And then on the following turn, I can just Mighty Destroyers back into combat range if I want. Or if it's my turn again, I can just move them and charge them back into combat range. And it's like they're both stuck in combat. Like these guys have been stuck back here. Pigs are 15 wounds on a 3-up save, right? So as long as you're... It's pretty tricky to get good at this, right? Because you do have to keep that 1/2 inch coherency. But you can sort of like really make things difficult for your opponent if you're playing really smart and clever, right? Like tagging a bunch of people into combat, right? Like 1/2 inch, and then we're gonna keep them nice and tight, right? We're in combat with both, but then we're in combat with neither. We're in combat with both, right? But then we're in combat with neither, and we can just kind of keep doing this conga line of pigs, right? And then it would be my turn again, right? But it's like, oh, we're in combat with both again. Super annoying. And all of this time, you can keep your opponent's units pinned down while you're doing other things on the map. It's very good. A lot of uses, really. Use it to deny and score points. Put more models onto objectives, right? Get things out of friendly territory into neutral territory. Scourge of Ghyran Brewfist lets you do this an additional time. That's why everybody's taking it, because Mighty Destroyers is easily our best rule. Easily our best rule. Like, I think in the whole book, I think it's not even close. So being able to do it twice is incredibly powerful, right? So if you're not familiar with Brewfist, take Brewfist. It's good. It's good. Ironjawz Wa does what it says on the box, likely calling it as many turns as you have heroes. If you have 3 heroes, you're going to call it for 3 turns, probably turns 2, 3, and 4, maybe even on turn 1. If you have 4 heroes, you're going to call it on turn 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? If you have 2 heroes, you have to be a little bit more careful. If you're playing 2 heroes, you're probably playing like a Kragnos list, so probably on turns 1 and 2. But when you deploy and you're setting up your game, you should have a plan of which heroes are going to be calling the Wa in what order. It's always good to have a plan. Then, if things are just sort of going according to plan, you just follow the plan. You don't have to do much thinking. You're just like, cool, first it's this, then it's this, then it's this. The adding +1 to the attack characteristics synergizes well with other buffs that we have. Zogrock gives crit mortals, so that's just more dice. Ardboys are going to throw, a brick of Ardboys are going to throw 41 dice. And then with crit mortals and a Wa, they're going to throw 61 dice, so they're going to be dealing about 10 mortal wounds, right? About 1 in 6. So that's nice. They can also throw, get +1 damage from the War Chanter. This synergizes really well, again, just with more attacks. It also synergizes really well with Zogrock, right? It's like those mortals are suddenly dealing 2 damage. So now that's 20 mortal wounds. We're getting into the Gut Rippers level here. So the trouble is trying to fit everything in a list, right? we'll talk about that more, I guess, this season. We also have crit 2 hits coming out of one of our spells. So crit 2 hits, again, it's like we're just going to throw buckets and buckets of dice. If your opponent has really high armor, crit mortals is good. +1 damage is generally just kind of good against everything. And crit 2 hits is going to be even better if your opponent has really weak saves. So Ardboys that get charged by 5 save, like infantry or cavalry or something, you know, it's like with 2 rend and crit 2 hits, right? Like all of your 2 wounds are going to go through. So extra attacks works very well with infantry. Battle formations. So we have a lot, and lots of them are actually good and worth taking. We've already talked a little bit. No, we haven't actually. So Ironjawz Brawl. So what Ironjawz Brawl does is it, let's see, I can just pull them up here. What Ironjawz Brawl does is if you have a charge roll of 8 or more, you get to add 1 to the attack characteristic of the unit's melee weapons for the end of the turn. Keep in mind, our big pigs, like if I want to look up just like a Maw Grunted Gouger, for example, their best attacks are going to be this Maw Gruntus Tusk. This is the one that we add our momentum to, but it has the companion weapon or the companion keyword. So we're not getting any benefits here from our Ironjawz Wa or from this battle formation, right? Natural disaster, right? This Ironjawz Brawl. We're not getting any benefit to our 2 really good attacks. So we're getting 1 extra attack. That's not a terrible attack, but just isn't an attack. Like it's 1 more dice. So where you would want to use this with like with like a Kragnos, like Big Pigs list, it's just not gonna do that. So it's only really good if you're gonna play Kragnos and a bunch of infantry, but realistically there's probably a better choice this season in particular. Gruntus Stampede is another one. Let's have a look here. So Gruntus Stampede is, there's not a ton of great options for pig lists because of companion weapons, as I was saying, but this is one of them. So Gruntus Stampede, let's get rid of the Gouger. Gruntus Stampede gives extra movement. You add the number of enemy units that have been destroyed this battle to the move characteristic of friendly Gore Gruntas and Maw Grunta units to a maximum of +4. Extra speed is good. So, I mean, at the very beginning of the game, it's not going to be anything, but 2 or 3 units are going to be dying pretty quickly, and then adding 2 or 3 movement. Like, if you add 3 movement to Gore Gruntas, they're suddenly 12 move, right? If you add 3 movements to whatever, to the big pigs, they're move 13. So, if you're gonna run a straight Ironjawz, not an army of renown, this is one of the better ones. Unfortunately, there's not a ton of good battle formations for straight pig lists. Iron Fist. Iron Fist is like if you kill a unit, then the next unit gets +1 to hit. Is only good if you want to run like a ton of Maw Crushes and Kragnos. Because Maw Crushes, like if you're like, I'm gonna run Kragnos, Gordrak, and a Mega Boss on Maw Crusher, right? Like you can fit that in a list. If you do, Iron Fist is going to be pretty good because those big models are going to be able to actually remove units from the table. So you're going to be able to actually get this, you know, +1 to hit actually happening and going off, right? Kragnos goes in, deletes a unit, cool. Then your next activation is going to be Gordrak, who now gets a free all-out attack. But again, it's like you don't even get it on you don't even get it on companion weapons. So it's like I think it's the weakest one that we have, Iron Fist. But it can be decent, but it's not very good. Weird Fist is one of the best. It makes your army significantly tankier. You get a 6-up ward for infantry. No, is it just infantry? Let's make sure. You get a 6-up ward, yeah, for infantry while they're wholly within 12 inches of a friendly Ironjawz wizard or priest. So you run a wizard, you run a priest, you run 2 reinforced bricks of Ardboys, you keep them, you know, wholly within 12. Those units are buff pieces, so they're just going to follow around your units and give them a 6-up ward. It actually makes a pretty big difference. If we look at some actual math here. So this is Ironjawz. Let's look at Ardboys. So Ironjawz have or Ardboys have an effective 60 health with a 3-up save and with no ward. The way that we calculate this is it's like this is how much damage your opponent has to inflict on you. Like how much damage worth of successful wound rolls or rolls your opponent has to give to you. Your opponent has to hand you 60 damage that you have to save and ward before the unit will actually be dead, right? Which is a lot. And I think this is just 10 Ardboys. It's just 10. It's a unit of 10. But with Brewfist, they effectively have 72 health. So just by having a 6-up ward, we're adding 12 more or 24 with a reinforced unit, more sort of pips of health onto an Ardboys unit. So it makes them a lot tankier. It also makes them a little bit more survivable against things like mortal wounds. Because as I said before, like we're kind of weak to mortal wounds, so having some kind of wards is good. And then we have our Scourge of Ghyran battle formations. So we have the Brewfist, which is easily the best. Mighty Destroyers is one of the best rules in the game. So being able to use it twice is good. You have to run a Mega Boss on foot. This can't be a Mega Boss on Maw Crusher to get to use this ability without having to roll. Its attacks, you know, we kind of wish that the Mega Boss on foot was a little bit better, but it is what it is. We also wish that we could use the Mega Boss on Maw Crusher. If this said any Mega Boss, including a Mega Boss on Maw Crusher or a Gordrak, we'd probably be running a Mega Boss on Maw Crusher. Not gonna lie. But it's not. And then this a big Snickers, where it's fine, but a +1 to wound buff for brutes is going to increase their damage by about 4, which isn't a big enough buff to justify other choices. It's just not as big of a buff as you think. We're already wounding on 3s. We don't need +2 wound, we need +2 to hit. So yeah, take Brewfist. Yep, take Brewfist. If you're gonna go all big pigs, take a Grunt to Stampede. That's it. Or take Brewfist. Right? It might even still be better. Right? Double Mighty Destroyers on the 3-up might still be better, but Grunt to Stampede is another fine choice if you're gonna take a big pigs. A lot of talk. You could also consider Brewfist if you're going all infantry. If you really want your opponent to come to you and you don't want to go to them, Brewfist is still a good choice, especially into some matchups. Heroic traits. An eye for the fight. This is our default best one if you're running any amount of infantry. It just means that when you redeploy, you get a minimum of 4. Moving 4 inches up the board with a redeploy is a solid move. Ironjawz are slow, especially infantry, so if you want to just have them moving up the board, you can just redeploy and they get to move a minimum of 4. That's pretty good. And then you Mighty Destroyers. They've moved 7 inches up the board. And then they get to, right? Like it starts to add up. So this is just a good choice just to keep things moving. Hulking Brute is a 33% chance it does nothing. So I'm not a big fan of things that do nothing. What Hulking Brute does is, when you charge, it does like a 2-up D3, but you can replace, if the unmodified charge roll is a 8+, it does a D6, but it still has a chance of doing nothing. So I'm not a big fan of that one. Yeah, not a big fan. Maybe with Kragnos, I don't know, probably not. Mega Bossy is not bad if you're running a big pigs or similar list. Put this on a hero when you charge in to add consistency. Call the wall for +2 to charge, wholly within 18. Yeah, it just gives another, if the hero charged, it gives another 18-inch +1 to charge aura. So it's if you're gonna play like a bunch of pigs, you can do Mega Bossy just to help get all the pigs in when you call the wall. Put it on a Tusk Boss. Have the Tusk Boss call the wall and charge in. Now it has a +2 to charge aura, just to help make sure that everything is actually getting in. But generally, I like to go for Eye for the fight most of the time. Artifacts of Power. Trophy Skull makes a Tusk Boss or Maw Crusher have 15 control, because it just adds 10 control. This can be very strong to help you achieve tactics and take primaries. A Tusk Boss with 15 control can just charge in and deal some damage, but just take an objective away. Right? It's like, oh, you don't get that objective anymore because you have 10 control and I have 15 control. Control mechanics are not super impactful in this game, but when you're adding 10, it can be. Adding like 1 or 3 or whatever, taking away 3 is not normally a game changer, but a Tusk Boss can just charge in and be like, it's mine now, and I'm gonna survive this turn. So this turn, it's mine. This can help you achieve your battle tactics, like if you have to control every objective on the battlefield or everyone in your opponent's territory. It's like the big pig is fast, he can move in, he can charge in. Armor of Gork is great for a Brewfist Mega Boss to help keep him alive. It just gives a 6 support, so if you don't want to take the other ones, you can just give him a 6 support to help keep him alive. And the Amberbone Whetstone makes a Maw Crush's boss chop attacks have 3 rend against infantry. You pick a profile, it can't be a companion profile, and you just add 1 rend. So again, a Maw Crusher going into infantry with 3 rend is nasty. You're just gonna chew things, right? Like if we have a quick look here, anti-infantry plus 1 rend, so 8 attacks, right? You're gonna all out attack this for sure. 3s to hit, 2s to wound, 3 damage, or sorry, 3 rend, 2 damage. A lot of these dice are getting through, right? It's gonna be like 12 damage against infantry. Man, it sucks. This guy should really... They did not do a good job with these profiles. These rends should be better. They should just be better. I know that they get +2, but they should just be 2 by default. Or something. Yeah, I don't know. Not great. Not gonna lie. I just, yeah, I mean, most of the time, if I can put Trophy Skulls on a Tusk Boss, I do. If I'm not playing a big monster, I'll throw Armor of Gork on something. Even a Tusk Boss, sorry, even Trophy Skulls on a Weird Knob. Yeah, like, I don't know. You can put Trophy Skulls on a Mega Boss. He can just march onto an objective and take it, but he's normally hanging out with Brutes, so it's not super relevant. I don't know. Trophy Skulls on a monster, Armor of Gork on a Mega Boss. It's probably the best way to do it. Monstrous traits. These are new with Scourge of Ghyran. And, yeah, Bigot. Gives the Maw Crush's Fist and Tail 3 rend versus infantry. You can combine this with the Artifact of Power to give both profiles 3 rend. Yep. Amberbone Whetstone makes for an all-in anti-infantry Maw Crusher. Too bad the Maw Crusher's not played. Fast and easily the best one. Maw Crushes are so slow, even a Tusk Boss can use this to great effect. You can also put this on a Hacken Crew. This actually works incredibly well on a Hacken Crew because of this little interaction. I should have written Hacken Crew in that. So the Hacken Crew, in your hero phase, you're going to fasten 9 inches, and then you're going to Mighty Destroyers 3 inches into combat. Right? Fasten 10 inches, Mighty Destroyers 3 inches into combat. Right? Now we are in combat range. Let's say now we are in combat range with these guys. So now the Hacking Crew can use his ability. I'm just going to bring it up here so we can have a look. So now he can use his Carve a Path ability on your turn still, right? Your movement phase. If it's in combat, which it is now because we closed the gap in Mighty Destroyer, it can move a distance up to its move characteristic. It can pass through models and the combat ranges of enemy units, but it cannot end a move in combat. So it can do something like, it can move 10 inches this direction if it wanted to, and then it still gets to charge. So, you know, it can still charge in, and then it still gets to pile in. Like it's able to get a ton of mobility here. So Fasten on a Hacking Crew is my... Oh, sorry, none of that was on screen. Sorry, my bad. But yeah, the Hacking Crew, right? Moving up, Mighty Destroyers, using its ability, charging. Look at that mobility. Look how far we came, right? It's a lot. So putting Fasten on a Hacking Crew is my go-to right now. Yeah, like I said, there's just some combos that you can use there. Madden, do not take. It's just bad. You think it will be fun until it's consistently doing nothing. Don't take it. Take Fasten. Lore of the Weird, getting into our spells now. Bcalm casts on a 6. It's solid buff, especially when we're getting a ton of attacks. This is the crit 2 hits, right? So brutes, Ardboys, even reinforced Rekkas. Mighty Edbutt is 3 damage to a wizard. It's situationally good. If you need to kill a wizard, use this against Morathi. It just does 3 damage. It's perfect. There's the Great Big Green-Handed Gork. This is our teleport spell. It's great at the start of the game. If you get lucky, you can use this on your opponent's turn to start the game with your units in the middle of the battlefield. It works better if you already have a Gork Rora, because you get that +2 to cast, which adds to the consistency, because this does cast on a 7, and if we're doing it on the off turn, even with +2, we still need a 6, but you won't have a Gork Rora on turn 1, but just keep that in your toolbox, right? Like, you don't want to be casting this on your opponent's turn for 8. That's tricky unless you feel like it's going to be a game-winning move, right? But it's unlikely to happen, right? Manifestations of Gorkamorka, most fun, best lore. The Foot of Gork helps control space, and you can use its ability to the turn it comes into play. It doesn't have the move keyword on the ability, so you cast it, and then on your move phase, one of those feet is going to come up and stomp. So that's pretty cool. The Gork Roar is super fun and excellent for consistency. Cast this on your opponent's first turn. The buff lasts until the start of your next turn. So your opponent goes first, you're going to spend a CP, you need 6 to get Gork Rora out. And then on your turn, you're going to activate this with a priest, probably, to be honest. And the War Chanter is going to get +2 prayer points. And because he activated on your turn, on your opponent's next turn, he can still activate it. Oh no, he still has the +2. So you can get a lot of extra prayer points this way, and you'll be giving out that +1 damage spell a lot. Yeah, but you need both, right? You need the priest and the wizard to do this. So it works really good in Weird Fist lists, right? Where you're playing a ton of infantry, and you're just gonna play like lots of wizards and priests, and you're just gonna buff those infantry units. It's great. But yeah, the buff lasts until the start of your next turn, so keep that in mind. It also gives +1 to charge aura, so we can stack up lots of plus to charges. That's good. Mork Spit Marsh goes off on a 5. It denies redeploys. It says they can't use run abilities, and people are like, okay, I cast it at them, like in their face, and then they can't run, but they can charge it. So that's not really what it's for. What it's for is to deny redeploys. Our army is slow. Try not to let them get away by denying them a 6-inch aura of redeploy. It's pretty big too, right? Like the manifestation itself is pretty large, so it's everything that's within 6. So you can deny redeploys in a big area. It's very good. Prayers. Remember that Gork Rora gives +1 and +2 prayer points. You can stack some serious points on your War Chanter. We just talked about this. So there's Get 'em Beat on a 4. Only good if you get 8 or more. Giving +1 to charge is fine. But there's lots of ways that we're getting +1 to charge already. If you get 8+, it gives you an extra die. It gives you a 3d6 charge. You can surprise your opponent with a 3d6 counter charge on their turn, or with a +2 if the Gork Rora is in range, like with a +1 or a +2 from the Gork Rora. So 3d6 with a +2 charge is scary. That's an average of 12 inches of a counter charge. Yep. So you can definitely keep that in your toolbox and surprise your opponent with suddenly brutes are in their face. It's very good. Fix and Beat is a healing one. You'll probably never chant this. Kill a Beat on a 5 is your go-to chant. It's your best. It pairs well with Zogrock with extra infantry attacks. 38 damage from 20 Ardboys versus 4-up saves. If you have 20 Ardboys and you get Zogrock and you give them +1 damage, you're going to deal a lot of damage. You do need both of these buffs to go off, but neither of these buffs rely on spells, right? Prayers are a little bit more consistent and reliable, and same thing with the Zogrock. I think for Zogrock, what is it? You need like a 2-up, and you get a reroll. I'm just going to double check that real quick. I can't remember if it's I'm pretty sure it's a 2-up, and you get a reroll. Let's have a look. Yeah, Clock. Reroll Fortune rolls. right? And then this, you'll probably never have him in combat, so this will never most of the time happen. And then it's a 3-up, right? So it's a 3-up with a reroll, not a 2-up. It's a 3-up with a reroll. So it's fairly consistent. So much more consistent than casting a spell. So if you want the biggest buffs, this is how you do it. But then you need a War Chanter to cast Gorkrora and to get the manifestations and stuff. So yeah, you kind of need all three. If you're going to play Zogrog list, it's like Zogrog, War Chanter, Weird Knob. So here's command points. We're going to go through all of them and we're going to talk about which ones are the best and how to use them. My rating system is like this. S tier means that you're going to use it probably every single round. A tier is very, very good, and you'll use this a lot. Not all the time, but lots of the time. B is situational, means you're just going to use it as needed. And F means you're never going to use it. You can basically ignore it. The only F tier one here is covering fire, because we don't really have any shooting worth covering firing, right? You're never going to use. You'll play 30 games and you won't use covering fire. First up is all out attack. We're going to call this S tier. We hit on a 4-up book wide. There's not a ton of ways that we can get +1 to hit. So we're going to use all out attack all the time. If you're new and starting out with Ironjawz, just take 2 command points aside and say those 2 are for all out attack. Every battle round. Once a turn, we're going to all out attack. Whew. Counter charge is A tier. Very strong ability. Off turn 3d6 charges with +2 is plannable. Like we were just saying, it's something that you can actually consistently get and plan around getting. Rally is B tier. Use it as needed. We're very tanky boys, so bringing back models is good. You can also get the Ardboy boss in play here to give extra rally rolls for Ardboys, especially if you're playing Weird Fist and you have, 5-up or 6-up wards. It can be okay. Use it as needed. Magical intervention is S tier, like I was talking about before, with counter casting Gorkrora to get it out so that you can have extra sort of oomph on your turn is very strong. Redeploy A tier. We're slow and we can guarantee 4 inches of movement with an eye for Defight. So even just redeploying units up the board is very good. Power through A tier. Brutes have 3 health, right? They're like an elite infantry, so they can power through just regular infantry, and all of our pigs are fast and like to move. So using power through with them is very strong. Powering through on our turn means that we get to Mighty Destroyers on our opponent's turn before they get to do anything. So it can be another way of like shoving units into their face in a way that they don't want. At the double is B tier. Auto run is not that great for us. Maybe right off the bat, like turn 1, just like moving infantry up the board to stand on a primary is fine. So use that as needed. But we don't have any run in charge, so it's not as good as it is in other armies. Forward to victory. Use it as needed, right? This is reroll charge. Reroll it when you need it. You fail that 4-inch charge and you really need to get in. That's fine. Spend the CP roll again. All out defense is B tier. It's worse now than it was. We're pretty tanky, right? With 3-up saves pretty much army wide. So we don't really need a lot of extra. So just use it as needed. And then again, as I said, covering fire is F tier. Battle tactics. So we're going to talk about some of the tactics that are better and some of the tactics that are worse. It really depends on your army composition and like what your list actually is. So keep that in mind. Most tactics are going to be easier to achieve if you're playing a lot of Gore Gruntas and Big Pigs. Unfortunately, this season, I think that we're kind of taking our infantry lists and putting them on the shelf, and all lists are going to have, at least a couple fast units like Gore Gruntas or some kind of Big Pigs. Master the Paths. All armies run heroes, but that might be tough against some lists. Master the Paths, it can be difficult because we can grind into our opponent's faces, but we're not very good at coming in behind them or flanking them. Our cavalry are not particularly fast. We don't really have access to any good teleports or deep strikes. We don't have any shooting or a lot of ranged damage like with spells. So if our opponent wants to keep heroes hidden from us, they probably can. We're a more in-your-face army. So killing an enemy hero we might just, against lots of armies, this might be dead on arrival. Wrathful Cycles combos well with Master the Paths, as you won't be killing enemy heroes in the first turn usually, because we want to be the underdog for Wrathful Cycles. So, I mean, to be honest, like, battle tactics are a little bit tough for Ironjawz. I'm feeling, you know, like Master the Paths and Wrathful Cycles and Restless Energy, I'd say, are some of the better ones, but yeah. Restless Energy, win fight and take the map. This one is a little bit sort of generically good. It's a win more one, right? You have a tusk boss, you put the trophy rack on him, and you're gonna just like kill things, push into our opponent's territory, take the map, win the game. Intercept and recover. There's very few tricks to get into your opponent's backline, as we were talking. Maybe the Hackin' Crew, but if your opponent really wants to hide things from you, they're gonna have an easier time to do so. So play a Hackin' Crew, get into what you need to get into, maybe. Attuned to Ghyran. We don't want to be retreating. Oh, Scouting Force isn't even on this one, that's right. Attuned to Ghyran, we don't want to be retreating and putting yourself in the middle. Leaves you vulnerable, so we're probably not taking Attuned to Ghyran. And Scouting Force, which I guess I forgot to put on the list, is just not good for us. We do have Scouts in our Gore-Gruntus, but they need to be out of combat to score, and we don't want that. We want them to be in combat. They're tar pit units. We want to be in their face with these models, so don't take Scouting Force. Probably don't take Attuned to Ghyran either. Maybe if you're playing a Kragnos list, a 2-drop Kragnos list, maybe. But for the most part, I think you're going to be taking some combination of Master the Paths, Wrathful Cycles, Restless Energy, and maybe Intercept and Recover. Again, it really depends on your list. They're tricky right now. Some key units. Gore-Gruntas, not the Scourge of Ghyran ones, the default ones. They help us score, and they're good. Big Pigs, Tusk Boss, Hackin' Crew, and the Gore-Grunta Gouger. They're good too. Kragnos. You can definitely play Kragnos this season. He's good. Brutes, Ardboys, and Scourge of Ghyran Ironjawz also are good. They're just solid, but again, you're going to probably be running them in lists with pigs, but they're not like on the shelf, right? They're still worth taking in some quantity. Ardboys are very good at holding primaries. Brutes are also very good at holding primaries. By primaries, I mean objectives. And the Scourge of Ghyran Ironjawz have if they're in combat, they give +1 to hit into, I think it's an aura? Is it just an aura? Pick a friendly Ironjawz unit. No, so it's just 1, wholly within 12, but it's still good. Getting +1 to hit is very good in our army. Weird Knob Shamans, War Chanters, Ardboy Bosses, Zogrock, all those foot heroes are good too. But yeah, probably the Ardboy Boss is less good because we're probably not running 2 reinforced units of Ardboys. Same thing with Zogrock, right? We're running lots of pigs, so we're probably going to see Weird Knob Shamans for sure. Mega Boss for sure. I didn't put him on the list, but you'll probably be running a Mega Boss on foot as well for Brewfist most of the time. Yeah. Regiments of Renown. The only one that I think is really worth considering is Big Grick's Cruel Shot. It adds some shooting, which helps us kill things that are hiding behind enemy lines. So it's something that is definitely worth playing around with. The kill bow is very strong at taking down monsters, so definitely try it out. If you haven't tried it out, try it out. Get some Cruel Boys models, play some Big Wah, right? It's good. Armies of Renown. So there's so Zogrock's Ironmongers I don't think is really worth considering this season. It has its own way to play, but as I was saying before, we want to be playing more pigs. So Zogrock's Ironmongers I don't think is really going to cut it this season. However, Krasog's Stampede might be the best way to play Ironjawz right now. The Fast and Furious ability is a deployment move that's great at screening or alpha striking. So if I just pull up TTS again, essentially this is sort of what I've been seeing and I've been thinking. So it's a deployment phase move. So if you're going second, it means what you can do is you can take a reinforced unit of Gore-Gruntas. Let's just throw like a deployment. You can take a reinforced unit of Gore-Gruntas and deploy move them up into the middle of the battlefield. If your opponent was going to alpha strike you, now they have this wall to deal with. Seems good. If you're going first, you can do the exact same thing, and then they get to move 9 inches, and then they get to charge in. Very aggressive. It's very good. The Wa upgrades Gore-Grunta's impact mortals to a D6 instead of a D3 and gives reroll charges, helping with some burst damage and consistency. If you can connect in one turn with 4 units of Gruntas and throw 4 D6 damage at your opponent right off the rip, that could be pretty crippling. It adds the round to the movement for all units, making everything noticeably faster. So I just measured 9 and 9 for those Gore-Gruntas. I should have been measuring 10 and 10. Their movement speed is 10 right off the start. So they're slow. So it's like every round they get faster and faster and faster. It adds up. By turn 3, right, they are 12-inch move. It's noticeable. It's good. And the truth is that if you're going to run like a pure big pig list, because you can't run anything but pigs, right? You can't run a weird knob. You can't run war chanters, none of those things. The list is basically big pigs and little pigs. If that's the list you're going to run anyway, you're not giving up a ton. Ironjawz Wa and infantry hero buffs don't affect companion weapons, as we said before. Mighty Destroyers is not as good compared to infantry. Like it's better on infantry than it is, and especially if you're getting extra movement buffs, it's still a very strong rule, but you'll miss it less than you think. And manifestations are not that useful, so having no wizards and no priests isn't really all that. It doesn't matter if you're running big pigs. So try it this season. I'm telling you, I think that Kragog Stampede is the way to go. So that's it. So let me know in the comments what you think. Is there something that I missed? Is there something that I undervalued? Is there something that I overvalued? And come join the Discord. I have so many great people hanging out in the Discord. I'm sure that we will answer all your questions. But please, if you do none of those things, at least like, subscribe.
Wow.